Hey, welcome to another video. Today I'll be showing you the new Hasbro gaming grades Umbra Operative clone ARC Trooper from Battlefront 2 video game. My, that was long. I know this review is a bit late, but there's absolutely no way I'll miss out on covering this figure. This trooper is pretty much the mascot of my channel since the beginning. And speaking of beginnings, in only my second video, I showed off my custom Umbra Operative ARC Trooper. And back then, it was before the ARC Trooper Echoes release. I said in that video, even if Hasbro is to release an ARC Trooper, they won't bother to come out with a variant as obscure as one buried inside a video game. Man, was I wrong. As we can see now, Hasbro is hot and heavy on gaming grades, and not only had they got around to producing the Umbra Operative, but they did it within the second ARC Trooper release. Now, you could say Fordo, aka the Clone Captain, is the second release, but many people, including myself, have not seen this yet, so I'll consider this the second one. I am impressed Hasbro has made this decision, and I am truly glad other collectors can get their hands on this beautiful design without resorting to customizing. And even though I've made the custom, I'm also very happy to have the official release. Not only do I think the official release is better looking, to be frank, customs are more fragile, and so it's really nice to have a playable and fun official release. So on with the figure. This is the outside box. Nothing really to write home about, but it does the job. Front, you get the Gaming Grades logo, clear window view. You see the accessories it comes with. Side, nice portrait. Back, again, nice portrait. And right up. Okay, finished. Here is a figure outside the package. It is awesome. Like many Clone Trooper releases, it is a repaint, but hell, I don't mind. Clone Troopers are like handbags. With handbags, you get a base design that resonates with the customers. Release new colors or use different materials, and women will just buy multiples. I'm not ragging on this practice, mind you. In fact, I think it's quite brilliant, because color coordination is important in fashion. So even with the same bag, different colors will do different things when mixed and matched with different outfits. In this case, different colors specify different units and characters, so in a way, Clone Trooper collectors can relate to buying handbags. Give us a repaint and we'll just eat it up. Back to our Umbra Operative. It's amazing that this is a repaint of Echo, but it still feels so different. The only major difference is that this figure only comes with 2 DC-17 pistols and doesn't include the 2 DC-15 and DC-15A rifles. But I don't mind really. The game doesn't feature them using rifles, and I'm all for simple figures. Plus, I already have many spare rifles from other figures, so I'm not going to miss another piece of plastic that would just clog up my accessories bin. But that's just me. This reduced accessory segues to the other big difference from Echo. It has no removable helmet. Instead, we get the usual glued down clone head. This time, the human head sculpt is molded in black plastic. But in this case, I wish they could have given us the head sculpt with removable helmet. After all, they did save on the rifles, right? I know, this is not a named clone, and therefore there are no reference of how they ought to look. But here's my wish, and hear me out. Wouldn't it be really fun for regular unnamed clones to have many different variant head sculpts with different hairstyles and even facial hair? And when you buy it, you don't know which head you'll get. So it's like a blind box toy, and I think that's pretty cool, and it'll add another element to our collecting. But that is just a suggestion. That's like a wish list. I don't know. What do you guys think? Now, the design itself. I will repeat a lot of what I said in my video on ARC Trooper Echo. It is absolutely fantastic. What I love so much about the official release is how they have improved on the comma from previous Clone Trooper releases. I know many people like soft goods, and it's much better for articulation, but the flexible plastic they use now gives the figure a lot better of silhouette while giving it form. I like how this comes down straight on the center as opposed to the previous comma that has a weird jog here. Previously, the jog bothers me so much that For my custom, I sanded down the top leg armor to mitigate this eyesore. And the new material gives it more substance. I can imagine this being a ballistic shrapnel protection as it was intended. This doesn't look like it. As for the helmet, one slight gripe I have with the ARC Trooper is I think it is a tad big. Compare this with the original Captain Rex, which has a more rigid and smaller helmet. But it is not a huge problem. It's still believable because in real life, helmets are pretty big. Also, specific to this design, because the helmet is black, your eyes are immediately drawn to read the yellow markings. And what this would do is it will make the helmet seem smaller than Echo's helmet, even though they're the same size. Lastly, the pauldrons do add some visual weight to this area, so it balances out the big helmet. Again, this figure is a reuse of ARC Trooper clone body, so I won't dwell on the difference between this and the normal 2020 clone mold. Instead, I'll focus on the paint apps. It is done quite nicely. This figures employ some paint chips on the yellow parts. On some figures, this chip doesn't look good. On this one, it's serviceable. However, in certain areas, like this part above the mouthpiece, the detail is not conspicuous enough. I would have preferred it to be a little bit more emphasized. Also, because it's probably more difficult to apply paint on top of black. You can tell certain areas are not coated evenly. While some parts like the forearm, the paint is caked up. And there's one area on the Kama where you could tell they have made multiple passes on the yellow paints. Another thing I noticed about the paint is the forearm rocket could use a bit more definition like you would see on Echo. Lastly, I would prefer if the helmet has more shine to it. This is just a personal preference, as some like to have matte armor, but this is no problem as I will just spray mine with a passive gloss clear coat. Articulation-wise, this figure is similar to most 2020 clone body. The head, I'm always perplexed by this, but the new clone mold is on a double ball joint. You are to think that this will allow more range, but it doesn't. And it's inconsistent from figure to figure. But this is a clone trooper, not Spider-Man. For a regular collector like me, I'm cool with just having it in neutral pose. But for those who likes to put them in crazy poses and do toy photography, you guys might want to have better head movement. In comparison to regular troopers, there are other differences. As expected, the shoulder articulation is limited by the pauldron. But given the pauldron is done in soft plastic, it is still very acceptable. However, the shoulder pads on the new mold depends on the ability for it to slip above the torso armor. So in this case, because of the pauldron being on the way, this figure will not be able to do shoulder fly the way other new 2020 clone molds can, nor can it splay out like the way the Rex body can. Also, like the new clone body, the elbow articulations can go past 90 degrees, but not as far as, say, the Rex elbow. The swivel happens on the elbow instead of above the biceps, as in the pre-2020 clones. Down to the wrist. As expected, it can rotate along the arm's axis. The right wrist can tilt side to side, while the left wrist can tilt up and down. Of course, as with many figures who you will wish to double fist pistols, we are still waiting for the left hand to also have the trigger finger. I have seen some people actually use a razor blade to separate the index finger from the rest of the hand, so proceed with caution if you choose to go that route. Torso articulation is same as the other new clone bodies. It has a good range of motion. Not Spider-Man range, but acceptable for a character wearing armor. As predicted, the Kama limits the leg articulation, but like I said, I usually display my figure in a neutral position, so I'm fine with this. The rest of the legs move similarly to the 2020 clone mold. You don't get much range at the upper leg where it meets the hip, and you will have to rotate the leg in order to get more movement. You'll then have to twist the leg at the knees in the opposite direction in order to compensate before you can bend the knees. The knees are on a single pivot joint, like the elbows, and the knee pads are attached to the upper thigh armor above. Similarly, you get some pinch to the strap as you bend the knee. The ankles are no different from the other clone ankles. Rocker ankles. Up, down, there you go. Size comparison. Since you'll most likely display them next to other clone troopers, there aren't many differences between them. Here's how it looks with other clones, and this is how it looks with other Clone Wars characters. And if you group your collection by troopers, here's how they compare with other troopers. This is how it looks next to ARC Trooper Echo. As noted before, my eyes just gets drawn to the yellow highlights, so it just appears slightly thinner, but it's actually the same size. And then lastly, just for kicks, this is right next to my custom, done a long time ago. It is amazing how the yellow on the Hasbro version really pops out, and I'm liking this figure more and more. This video might make me sound nitpicky at times, but it is all in the service of letting the viewers know what this figure entails. But I'm really okay with the shortcomings because, face it, despite all this, will you pass this one up? Absolutely not, and I'm sure you won't either. The figure is absolutely a dream come true, and the verdict is, Hasbro, please keep coming. I know collectors are skeptical about repaints, especially the ones that demonstrates laziness, but for clone troopers, they are highly welcome. Funny thing is, I saw a YouTube video recently, and the creator says, Hasbro, stop making clone troopers. He's a pretty popular YouTuber, and I'm quite surprised that many of his viewers agree with him. So it seems like clone trooper fatigue is a real thing. Perhaps there's a generation gap between the guys who grew up with the original trilogy and the prequel guys who grew up with the Clone Wars. Ironically, I belong to the older generation. I'm sure many of you out there is the same as me because clone troopers are just cool concepts. It's undeniable how popular they are. They just sell really well. But yeah, I will put the question out there for you guys. Are you guys tired of more clones? Actually, that's a dumb question for me to ask because if you watch my video, chances are you're in favor of more clones. But that said, I also like to sneak this in. Hasbro, please begin to make more Separatist droids. This is a territory that's desperately unfulfilled, and it's another troop building opportunity. So more droid variants, super battle droids, droidicas, super tactical droids, droid commandos, Magna Guard, you get the idea. Okay, back to the Umbra Operative. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm sure you will like this figure as well. It will guarantee to really pop in your shelf. While this is not the greatest troop builder, I will probably get an extra one and make it a two-man squad or something, and even redo one of them to give it slight personalization. Anyways, I can go on and on. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.